firstly, Chris, Lori, Justine, pleasure having you here. We're excited to be putting together, the first session of day 3 of the Sponsorship Connect conference. Justine, what started off as a conversation a few weeks ago quickly turned into a very passion-driven initiative for me to kind of push this forward to raise some money to help Second Harvest and Feeding America battle food insecurity. We've raised around $11,000 so far, and we have about 550 registrants for the conference. So it's an awesome initiative. We're excited to be a part of it, and we're excited to have the both of you here.
Well done. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So Chris, let's start with you. So you've been at MLSE for nearly 2 decades now. How are things going right now, and what's happening in the last few months that you've seen that you've probably never seen previously?
Yeah. We'll get to the last few months. Has been obviously a wild ride, but for me, the 20 years at MLSE has been amazing. And it's been good every couple of years to be able to reinvent myself in my career, and I think I've done virtually all business disciplines within the company, from ticket sales to sponsorship, community relations for a period of time. Helping launch Toronto FC has been something that's will always hold deep into my heart. So that's been it's been a great ride. I will also say that over the last number of years, when you win, it certainly helps as well. So it was a while there where we weren't doing a lot on the winning side of the equation, but the last number of years has been phenomenal. Obviously, Toronto FC in 2017, and then the Toronto Raptors. A short 10 or 11 months ago, which is crazy to think it was so recent. But it's been great. The last few months has been a whirlwind. And when you look at an organization like MLSE, when you've got 8 professional teams, I'll include our farm teams in there, and then also our Raptors Uprising gaming league team as well, to try and be as nimble as possible and to react to this as quickly as possible is not always easy. It's a bit of a challenge. And I deal with 2 leagues. I deal specifically with Major League Soccer and then the CFL, but we're having to deal with 8 different leagues across the organization, and we're having to deal with 8 different financial models for these different leagues. We've got a centralized marketing unit that is broken up effectively into 2 groups, Team Blue and Team Red, and they have to deal with the blue teams, the Leafs and the Argos and the Marlies, and then Team Red is the Raptors and Raps 905. So it's a big beast to try and wrap your arms around, and that's kind of what the last 2 months has been about. Is how do you figure out what that new normal is, and what does it look like as we move forward, and then trying to be steps ahead of where we're going next.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that this time last year, or like probably in like a month, we had 3 million people in the city of Toronto lining up for the parade for the Raptors celebration. Now we can barely have a group of people together. So it's a very different normal now. It's crazy to think about, but I'd love to kind of, you touched upon the launch of Toronto FC, and I'd love to know, what goes behind the scenes in terms of launching a property like that's been so successful in the last 10 years. Like how was that experience when you were first planning for the official launch there?
Justine, I see you smiling because we were all so involved in that. And for those who don't know, Justine was the lead executive at Bank of Montreal, who brought all of this together. And she put up her hands and said, "BMO, we want to go all in on soccer." And they were our first partner and our best partner, and have been with us ever since 2007. So Justine was always involved in that, and we had some amazing times when we launched Toronto FC. I think we had 12 months to build a facility, to build BMO Field. We had a very short runway of launching into Major League Soccer. We didn't necessarily even know the sport, and the sport was at such an infancy really in Canada. So it was a lot of learning in those first number of years. but it was just this groundswell of support. And the franchise, we got off the ground and we'd sold a lot of season tickets. We were doing really well. And then, David Beckham so happens to join the LA Galaxy. And then the league kind of takes this next explosion, if you will. And TFC went on to sell out, every single game for the first 3 or 4 years. Despite the fact the product on the field wasn't, we weren't winning, it was an unbelievable sporting experience. And we'll never forget the day. It was May 12th, 2007, Justine, when the seat cushions, flew down on BMO Field after Danny Dichio scored his first ever goal. I've got mine on my wall in my office as well. You'll never forget those moments, right? And for me, you guys were smart. You turned it into an ad campaign immediately right away, saying not even the weatherman could have predicted seat cushion flurries. But BMO did a great job in that initial launch year. So you'll never forget those times when you bring a franchise from nothing into something that's 10 years later we're putting 30,000 people a match into BMO Field, and a few years ago winning every championship that we could compete in. So TFC's been a great ride for our organization and for me personally as well.
And I want to throw some love back to you, Shuey, and to MLSE, because I think that at the time, strategically, for those that don't recall, if you go back in time, soccer or football, had not really been successful in Canada. And so when we did that deal, there were a lot of naysayers and people that were doubting that this strategy was going to work. And I even recall, people teasing me and saying, what are you guys going to do when tumbleweeds roll down the middle of BMO Field? Yeah. And like, oh, did you forget about the blizzard? Look what happened to them. So there were a lot of doubters at the time. And what I think was so unique that MLSE did then and continues to build on, that probably is so natural now, nobody thinks about it, but from a marketing perspective, the genius that you guys did was to say, there are so many new Canadians. There are so many people that love this global sport. And what we're going to do is celebrate the cultures that come together through soccer. And we're going to take the simplicity of that ball and the freedom of the pitch, and we're going to bring that to Canadians. And I think that really is such a beautiful strategy. And even the food services, if you remember, in the beginning was a celebration of different cultures. Yeah. And I think that stuff for me always makes me super proud, because we got involved to support new Canadians, to support Canada and the patriotism of the mosaic, the cultural mosaic, and the fact that soccer/football was always that sport everywhere around the world. And I think you guys have done a fabulous job continuing that celebration and bringing so many people to BMO Field in sort of honoring that spirit, players on and off the pitch.
Yeah, that's what All for One was all about. In going back to those early days, it didn't matter where you were from, what club you may support as your first club in Europe or around the globe, but come together at BMO Field and support your local club, Toronto FC, All for One. And it's been an amazing journey with that still true to our heart. Every single kit that we've produced over the last 13 years has All for One on the kit in some way, shape, or form. That's never going to lose Toronto FC. That's part of the fabric of our city, and that's why this city is amazing, and sets up very well for soccer, sets up very well for basketball as well.
Yeah, Justine and Chris, you both touch upon something that's really interesting there, and that's the element of community, right? So with Major League Soccer, Toronto FC, and soccer in general, a lot of people around the world are engaged because it's a sport they know. It's a very affordable sport to play, and it's a sport that we've known to love for many years. So what I'm really curious about, Chris, is how do you take that community element that you have in stadiums and across the country, and how do you engage that community now that people can't come together in that stadium?
It's only been 6 or 7 weeks since we've been trying to figure this out, but we had to move quickly, and we got into scheduled programming. I think from a content standpoint, right, is, you know, we've got this broad range of soccer community that tunes into Toronto FC. But we've also got a massive soccer community that doesn't tune in to Toronto FC, right? We've got all these diehard soccer fans, or we call them soccer enthusiasts, who we want them to pay attention to TFC. So that's really been our challenge, is what content are we creating through this time that's going to get people excited to tune in and to care about what we're doing. And I'll talk about one program we launched with a third-party content and event company called Homestand Sports. And we partnered with them on their Footy Talks brand. So what Homestand Sports initially did when we started to partner with them at the start of the year was they put on live events. And they were going to put on live events around the entire GTA, 17 different communities across the GTA, and engage soccer enthusiasts beyond just TFC fans. And they leverage the top soccer personalities in Canada. So Stephen Caldwell, Luke Wildman, and Christian Jack. And when the pandemic hit, we had to pivot, and we had to pivot really quickly. So we pivoted with Footy Talks, and we said, okay, let's go digital, and let's figure out how we can continue, trying to chase down the soccer enthusiasts, and let's talk about the Bundesliga. Let's talk about other professional leagues, and also let's talk about Toronto FC and what's upcoming, or talk to different players and highlight our executives, our coaches, etc. So third-party content providers like Footy Talks is something for me that helps us become credible with more than just our TFC fans and the broader soccer community in Toronto. We're still scratching the surface with TFC. We have a long ways to go. I look at the broadcast ratings, and I look at in-stadium what we're doing. You know, when the Raptors 5, 6, 7 years ago, they were doing similar broadcast ratings as what Toronto FC is doing to this day. And we all saw where that's gone, right, with the championship run. But even before that, you were starting to get 400,000 or 500,000 people watching the broadcast. So soccer's following a similar trend, and we're trying to buck the trend, get a little bit ahead of it, and see if we can connect to those soccer enthusiasts a little bit quicker. So that's kind of been the strategy that we've used. I think so far it's working out well, and we've had some great guests on the show, and some really good results as well.
I wanted to ask you also about the academy, because I have seen some of the academy kids practicing virtually.
Yeah.
And I saw it on social because I happen to know some of the parents of some of the kids. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that, because I think for people that are on this conference, it's fascinating to first understand what the academy does, and also what they're doing right now, which is really an amazing pivot in my mind, that I couldn't believe they were doing what they're doing.
The academy's been amazing, Justine. Thanks for bringing that up, because the coaches of the academy they've been out in front of all of this. I had one academy coach tell me last week he met with his team 11 times last week. He does a morning session just to talk to them about their day, to hype them up. Then he gets into a training session in midday, and he's doing it from his condo over Zoom calls, and it's absolutely remarkable. And they're doing cardio work, they're doing ball mastery, and they're doing theory as well. So he actually said to me, and this is Terry Dunfield, one of our academy coaches, but Terry actually said his ability to connect in this time has been greater because he's used technology to hit them and to get to them more often than he had before. Because when we're training every single day at our grounds, he's got them only for an hour and a half on the pitch, and now he's got the ability to connect with them. And those kids and the parents are also looking for the ability to disrupt their day a little bit, right? Because they're just doing school, or they're doing whatever they might be doing. So it's worked out tremendously well, not just for the academy, for the first team. Technology has been on our side, and our guys adapted really quickly. And I think it's just showing how there's different ways that you can connect, not just through business, but also through teams. And I think our academy is doing a really, really good job, and will benefit on the flip side. I don't know if every academy or every team is doing it the same way that we're doing it, but I know that our guys aren't going to skip a beat once they get back out onto the pitch.
And for people that don't know, can you just explain briefly
Yeah.
who gets drafted into the academy and what age groups they are?
Yeah, our academy runs U13 right through to U18. We've got the best kids in Ontario, effectively, that are playing within our academy. They train every single day. Typically, they would train every single day at the BMO training ground, which is located at Downsview Park. So every single day at the BMO training ground, we have our first team, Toronto FC, our second team, TFC2, and then we've got approximately 8 academy teams that are training there on a daily basis. So there's over 130 kids at any given day that are frequenting the facility as well, and getting the top level training of anywhere in Ontario. So the academy program is something we started back in 2008 and has grown and expanded. These kids play in international competitions. They play in local leagues as well. So it's something that we're really proud of, and we invest a lot of money in developing future footballers here in the GTA.
Yeah, it's amazing that they're still in such contact. And that, again, this is another sense of community, that
Yeah.
community is still thriving. And I found that really heartwarming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to pivot that community conversation as well, Justine, into, something that you both are doing right now. So before we get into the program, bringing Toronto back to its feet, I'd love to introduce Lori Nikkel, the CEO of Second Harvest, who's actually our event partner for this Sponsorship Connect conference. Lori, would you mind just telling us quickly, your story, your organization, what they do, and what your goals are in the next few months during this time?
Absolutely. And thanks to everybody for supporting Second Harvest through this conference. It's fantastic. So Second Harvest is Canada's largest food recovery organization. We have a dual mission, and that is no waste, no hunger. So we really are focused on making sure that good surplus food gets to people and not into landfill, where it creates methane, and it's a climate change contributor. And we do this with a whole lot of partners in business and in charities. And in the city of Toronto, we have a fleet of 12 trucks that are crisscrossing the city, picking up surplus food and delivering it to, well, not right now schools, but schools, food banks, shelters, anywhere that people require food for their program, they are eligible to access it from Second Harvest. And we're unique in that 90% of the food that we support people with is perishable. And we focus on healthy perishable. So we really are looking at protein, dairy, and produce, because those are the hardest foods to access if you're low income. And there's a whole lot of it. So that's what we're doing every day. We have had 5 training kitchens in the city where people with barriers to employment we would bring them the food, they would create meals, and then we would take those to organizations. And then COVID hit, and the wonderful MLSE stepped in because all those training kitchens closed. And during COVID, everything changed, right? Like, so community dining didn't exist anymore. The way people were accessing food didn't exist anymore. So we had to pivot really quickly to make sure we could get food to people, because there was actually more people needing it, but in different spaces. So some places would close because they were volunteer driven, and there were seniors, and there were people with compromised immune systems, so they couldn't stay open. And then these other organizations would open that weren't typically food related, but now they are. And so we had to shift with that and figure out where are all the places that need food and how can they accept food. And what was very clear early on was certainly wasn't going to be community dining anymore. And that was typically how our Harvest Kitchens worked. They were like big, huge trays. So when MLSE came, and Chef C and the whole gang over there that are amazing came to us with this, it was individual meals, which is critical. Like, if you're working in a homeless shelter, you really need to be able to give people those meals and go. They can't be sitting together. And the meals that they provided weren't just individual. They were like high quality meals. And if you've never been low income, you don't understand the value of that, because you're worth it. And so opening a meal that is that high quality really brings you peace of mind, joy, and nourishment, because you're just incredibly satisfied on many, many levels. So MLSE has been doing that with us. As soon as they closed down, they called us. They had 27,000 pounds of surplus food that they couldn't use. So we picked it up right away. But to be fair, MLSE and Second Harvest have been partners since 1998. They've always been amazing supporters and community-minded. They've given us tickets so that we could raffle them off. They've let us use their MLSE Launchpad for a training kitchen. And so we're just building on an existing fantastic relationship. So for that, we are incredibly grateful.
That's great. I mean, it's really great to have you here, because I think that, this is a conversation that doesn't often get to have happen in conferences like these. So to see, both of your elements coming together to instill meaningful change in a time like this is really important. Chris, from your standpoint, obviously this relationship has been going on for a long time with MLSE. Can you talk a little bit about the operational side of this partnership? And, obviously, Lori talked about how much food is going to Second Harvest. Like, how does it work operationally to get this together?
Yeah, I think this is a sponsorship conference as well. So I'll give a little bit of a background as to how this all came about, because I think it was unique in that as the pandemic hit, and as Lori mentioned, Chef C's got 27,000 pounds of food sitting around. We got to make sure it doesn't waste. Obviously, Second Harvest was there to work with us on it. But beyond that, we were looking for different content ideas and different areas that we could engage our partners on. And the relationships that we have within our organization between our partnerships team, our food and beverage team, our corporate and community affairs team is so tight that it was a bunch of conversations that happened with that group specifically around content ideas. What are we going to do? And some of the ideas were, Chef Z was going to put on cooking classes, and he was going to be using, LG appliances and different things. Well, that quickly morphed into a conversation around, well, we've got this huge fleet of staff as well, food and beverage staff, and we've got these kitchens. How do we really make it meaningful and bring it to life? And that's something that morphed out of a conversation amongst partnerships and food and beverage teams. So it was really that great collaboration. And then our corporate CEO, Michael Freesdale, really wanted to take it to the next level. And I think he asked the question, well, we've got big kitchens. What capacity could we actually do in these kitchens? And we determined quickly that, up to 10,000 a day out of Scotiabank Arena, and then another 3,000 a day out of BMO Field. So our capacity at this moment is up to 13,000 meals a day. And the production of that alone is just, it's a massive beast, right? So at the end of last week, I think we were close to 150,000 meals. And then this week we can get close to over 200,000 meals served and delivered as well. So it's something we're tremendously proud of. Our mission at MLSE is to bring the world to its feet, right? We did that during the Raptors run. We did that during TFC's championship run. But at a time when the city really needs our help and support, as a 20-year employee, it's no surprise that we're there, and we're there to help and bring this to life, because that's what we've done, whether it's through a program like this, whether it's MLSE Launchpad that launched a number of years ago, or dating way back with refurbishments of rinks and pitches, and our community team and our foundations. MLSE does some amazing work in the community, and I'm glad that we're able to highlight this today, because not only is it great for the community from a staff standpoint and an engagement standpoint, it's tremendous. And there's a lot of people that are working hard, not just the food and beverage team, but people from across the company are getting trained, working. They have to commit to 3 days a week to work in the program, because of obviously all the training protocol. There's a lot of staff that have been going through that program as well, and it's amazing. And the feedback that we're seeing on our internal workplace is tremendous, and how it's engaging the employees and bringing them together as well. So it's something that's very special to us for sure.
Yeah, I love the element of, the mission that you have with MLSE, bringing the world to its feet. And obviously the touch-in or the tie-in here with the partnership you have with Second Harvest. But it's not always through sports. Sometimes it's through other additional community touch points like this. And I think it's so important that, properties start to, take that leadership role to kind of ensure the community in a time like this is supported. and also bringing their partners on that journey. So it's great to see, the partners that you have brought on board for that conversation. Obviously, the whole MLST team deserves a huge round of kudos for this program, and same with the work of Second Harvest, Lori and your team. It's a great partnership and a great way to support Toronto and Canada in a time of need. This is awesome. Like, do you think that this kind of how does this partnership expand into BMO Field? Because I know it started originally with Scotiabank Arena, possibly Scotia Plaza as well. How did you make the decision to expand the work that you were doing into BMO Field and to the property there?
Yeah, I think part of the question, and Lori, you can jump in on this one as well, but part of the question is, how much food is actually needed, and how much can we deliver in safe ways? Obviously, Second Harvest is a partner, but we're also, the other side of that is we're delivering to frontline workers through a number of different hospitals across the city as well. So there's twofold. And we're accomplishing a number of different things there. We always knew we wanted to expand the program beyond just Scotiabank Arena, and we have capacity, and we have the staff, and we have the chefs. One thing about MLSE, and this is not similar to a lot of sports organizations, but all of our chefs and all of our staff, they're full-time, right? A lot of sporting organizations have third parties that operate their food and beverage programs. Well, we have all full-time employees, and they wanted to be able to work, to use their craft to give back during this time. So it just made sense, and we had the capacity, and we've got 700 plus employees at Maple Leaf Sports. And if we can get the volunteers to do that and have the right partners involved, it's been the right thing to do. So I don't know, Lori, if you want to expand on that at all.
Absolutely. So for a couple of reasons. One is absolutely we needed more food, but we also had to watch how we did that, because the logistics behind it is quite something. We've actually put another route on to manage that. But also coming out of different facilities is helpful for our logistics as well. So when we're routing, you're just closer to where you need to be, BMO versus Scotiabank Arena. So we are right now, we're delivering 25,000 meals a week, which is very large for us. So that's more than we actually did deliver through our Harvest Kitchens. And I wish I had this video I could play for you, because it made me cry on Friday. And it was some workers at a senior center walking door to door and knocking on the doors, and the seniors coming out that cannot go out because they're older and they have compromised systems. One guy cried. He was so happy about the meal. Like if you could see it, it just makes your heart fill, and it's beautiful. So the impact you're having is tremendous. And it's hard to recognize that when you're just doing your day-to-day job until you actually see it and you go, oh, right. It's more than just business. We're changing people's lives, literally changing people's lives. So for that, I mean, honestly, everybody, kudos to you.
I know we're running out of time here, but I'd love to understand, if there's one message, Lori, that you have for other charity initiatives, or Chris, you have for other sports properties learning from a partnership like this. Is there any learnings that you can share, or anything you'd like to pass on to those kind of parties?
So I'll go first. And because I'm a charity, I mean, we've always believed this, and I'm sure Chris does too, as well as everybody else. We can't do anything alone. It's only through collaboration and partnership that we are going to change the world in the best way possible and get the right things done. So this is another example of collaboration and making sure that the world's a better place.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Lori, as much as you guys couldn't do it without partners, we can't do it without partners as well. If Scotiabank wasn't there, Bank of Montreal wasn't there, I think we've got 10 other partners that are supporting with some food donations, but also logistics support, et cetera. There's a lot that has gone into this. So the collaboration has been tremendous. Our partnerships team, our food and beverage team, they've worked together so well at a time where we couldn't be physically together, but they had to do everything through digital means. And the partner network and our relationships have been tremendous there. So, Chef Z got some good shout outs here, but I'll give some shout outs to Jeff DeLine and Jordan Vader and the partnerships team as well. They've been huge. Michael Bartlett and our community affairs team, and Dan Morrow, our food and beverage team as well. And then our whole executive leadership team has just jumped in with everything behind this. So it's been huge. So that collaboration is, you know, continues across what we've done as well.
You know what, Shui, the pandemic's trying to bring the world to its knees, but you guys are going to bring the world back to our feet. So I wanted to show you what I found during my pandemic cleaning. I found this in a box. So I thought I would show it to you.
Justine, did we not give you all access? Only the concourse? Come on.
Not in 2014. Okay.
I must not have been in charge of it during that time.
I want to redo.
Seriously.
Chris and Lori, thank you so much for coming in today. This was awesome. A great conversation overall, and amazing to see the work you guys are doing in the community.
Congratulations to both of you guys for such great work.
Thank you. And thanks to both of you for collaborating on this, guys.
Yep,
appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
That was great. That's so amazing.